New Orleans is allegedly shopping Zion Williamson for a top 3 pick. Allegedly, they are, I shouldn't say allegedly, reportedly they are after Scoot Henderson. And, would you want Zion? It seems like a huge injury risk. That this is a player that we like to call our shots, speak first, and forever hold your peace. And Zion Williamson, when he was in college, you and I both said, this guy's an injury waiting to happen. And that's what his pro time has been.
I mean, only because the first time we saw him on the court, he blew out his shoe.
Yeah. That was a kind of a funny story, but it was part of a bigger picture of a guy that you had to wonder if that at his size and the way he played the game, was it going to take its toll on his body?
He was just too big.
Yep. And was he going to change his body? Was he going to be as effective as he did? Was he going to be more effective he did? But whatever. The point is, so why would we want him now that he's been in the league? And we really don't. Although, sometimes when you're a team looking to take that next step, you sometimes take chances, calculated risks on players with red flags and kind of, hope and pray that it works out. You and I were both against it. B, the truth is they probably want a top 3 pick, not a top 5 pick. And so there wasn't really much there in theory. Then Bradley Beal, by the time we got home from the Tiger game, the reports out there that Bradley Beal could be made available. Now, he has the full no trade clause. He can kind of pick his spot. It seems like he's ticketed for a contender, a Boston, a Milwaukee, or a Miami. On top of that, Kang, did you say you saw that Washington wants a top 3 pick?
Yeah, they want something big in return.
Yep.
But, I mean, they might not get it, but, everyone's shooting for the stars right now.
Sure. So if he wants to play for a contender at this point in his career, I'm going to assume here Detroit's not on his list. Pretty safe assumption. But this is where you get to the tangential impact. Does it bump another veteran that's available down the totem pole? Does a player that and it's not going to be the top free agent, but that's okay. If Milwaukee tries to get Bradley Beal and doesn't, do they go get Fred VanVleet instead? And do you get to the point where, a player like a Cam Johnson from the Nets gets bumped down far enough that Detroit becomes a destination? That's one way it could tangentially impact the Pistons. Another is in Washington, you got Kristaps Porzingis, who has a player option to become an unrestricted free agent. With Bradley Beal leaving, does Porzingis go, I don't want to be here either. I don't want to be a part of a rebuild. And I think Kyle Kuzma is as well.
That's great. Let's get another big man here. So that's what the Pistons need.
Well, maybe a better one. I mean,
I'm joking. But
right.
I mean, he would be great, right? But you would have to start subtracting some people on this roster.
Of course. But if he exercises his option to become a free agent, that could be, it could impact Detroit. It could get involved. They've got cap space, okay? Now, will any of these guys decide to come here?
Well, that's the big question. You've got these, and with Porzingis, he's already played with 3 teams in his career to this point, with the Knicks, Dallas, and Washington, and he's entering the prime years of his career at the age of like 27, 28. So does he just want to go to a contender at this point?
Probably
does. I looked at a couple other names that I saw that I actually put in my show sheet that I don't think they're free agents, but they're players that you got to start thinking about. And when it comes to veteran presence, would you start to think about someone like Russell Westbrook? Now, before everybody says, no, Russ is awful, he's this, he's that, would he be a better fit with the Pistons? Because they don't have that superstar guy that, that's there like LeBron was. Maybe it's just a bad fit, or wherever else he was playing with Durant and Harden and all this.
Feels like one of those calculated risks I just talked about.
It would be a very calculated risk. I'm just wondering if that would make sense, or Draymond Green is another one. Draymond's best years are behind him, but there's no question he's got some leadership abilities, and you're not asking him to score a ton of points a game. You're asking him to play defense, which he can play, and you're asking him to rebound and lead.
Is he 34, 35?
He's older. I'm not sure how old he is, but he's older.
Yeah, that would be the concern. But, look, there's so much flexibility for the Pistons. The fifth pick.
He's 33, by the way.
33, okay, thank you. The fifth pick, which there seems to be a market for, cap space, and I feel like the owner made a financial commitment to the coach that stands to reason that he makes the financial commitment to the roster. Like, he's not going to hand the coach last year's team and say, go do it. I think you go get that coach because you're ready to pick up the pace here a little bit in the rebuild. And it's so obvious that, all this youth in the backcourt, that, the idea of adding veterans, it just makes you can only accumulate so much young talent.
Yeah, but as we talk about this, they have a veteran that seems to be on the trading block.
I know, and I'm not crazy about it. I none of the trades, and there's another rumor out there about him that we will get to, but if they trade Bojan, I don't feel like it's going to be for what they need, because what they need, unfortunately, is a player like him. So why trade him?
So you bring up a point I agree with, Doug, is like they mentioned this during the press conference too. Monty Williams did it, and he said the word restore. Now, they're not. I don't care what the fans think or whatever. Inside that building, the organization, they're not talking rebuild. They're talking restore. They're talking moving forward, winning games, fighting for the playoffs. Okay, and I think when you pay a coach $12 million, when you make him the highest paid coach in the NBA, yes, he's good at developing young players, but you also do have to give him a roster to work with to try to win games. So that's where you go in and you grab a veteran in this league who's a good player. You're going to move some of those young pieces. So maybe Bradley Beal's a dream. No trade clause. Doubt he's coming to Detroit. Maybe you don't like Zion. Maybe you're not in the Kyrie Irving sweepstakes. You could still be that third team to help facilitate a trade. They don't have a top 3 pick, which everyone seems to want, but they do have a top 5 pick, which, by the way, makes me so much more pissed off every time I think about the lottery.
I know, it's so irritating. Yeah. It's not even the not winning it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the losing it as bad as they did.
Exactly, Doug. So, but you do, all right, let's glass half full. You do have a top 5 pick. You can be that third team to help facilitate a trade. Maybe there's a guy out there that we're not even thinking about or is not on the block that can get moved and put to the Pistons because they have a top pick. So I think that's something you look at. Troy Weaver, we know the guy loves to maneuver. Trader Troy, he makes trades all the time. They're always calling teams up. How can they get involved? How can they get another team involved to help facilitate a trade?
So then I mentioned the Bojan trade rumor, and this was courtesy of ESPN, where they did a mock draft. And in the mock draft, they had the Pistons taking Cam Whitmore out of Villanova at 5, which is kind of a top, it's a 6'6" wing player that gets talked about a lot, very athletic. There's some things about his game that I don't particularly love, but I think they might be a product of youth and trying to make an impact at the collegiate level. Like a historically bad assist rate. I think he was looking to put up some numbers. I
remember reading that, and I thought to myself, I don't care if he's got a historically bad assist rate. I'm not asking this guy to pass the ball. I've got players that can pass the ball. Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey are the guys who are going to be moving it around. I don't need to worry about a small forward racking up assists.
I worry about a hunting shots player. It's not about the racking up assists to me. Is this guy, and you've seen players like this that are more concerned about, hey, I got mine, than they are about the actual winning. But the trade, they at the pick at 5, they did say, they wrote some trade scenarios could be in play for the Pistons with the number 31 pick as well. For example, packaging Bojan Bogdanović for Tim Hardaway Jr. in the number 10 pick, sources tell ESPN. So the Pistons would be sending Bojan and number 31 to Dallas for Tim Hardaway Jr. and the number 10 pick. All right, so 10 is maybe the area where they could get my favorite player in the draft, and this is where I struggle with. I kind of feel like I'm about to go all Jack Campbell on Taylor Hendricks, the power forward out of UCF, who I think is a perfect fit for this team. If I love him at 10 and I like him more than Whitmore, then just take the guy at 5. And I don't think I've seen one mock draft where Taylor Hendricks goes at 5 or higher, but I'm willing to do it personally because I think he's the perfect fit for this team. Everything he does is things you would need. What he doesn't do is things they have an abundance of. He's not a dribble drive guy. He's a 6'9", 6'10" player that can hit threes. He's a great defender at the rim. He switched to play all 5 positions at UCF. So on pick and roll defense, he could guard all 5 positions. And, he's an explosive, quick leaper. And that's why I think one of those underrated attributes in the game is the ability to jump quickly. I think it's what Chris Webber did better than anybody. He got off the ground quickly and reached his apex quickly. And I think that's Taylor Hendricks would be perfect for this team. Anyway, the point is, okay, let's say they get Whitmore at 5 and Hendricks at 10 and Tim Hardaway Jr. Do I like that more than having Bojan and a player at 5? And I don't know that I do because you can only accumulate so many young players.
Bojan gave him such a lift last year, and there were more times than not he was excellent for the team. I mean, there were the games where you're like, where'd he go?
Yep.
Okay, but the majority of the time, the vast majority of the time, he was pouring in over 20 points a game, and you like to see that, knowing that there's a guy, if they leave him open, he's going to knock down that shot, and you need that. Now, did they lose defense when he's out there? Probably, but I'd like to think there's a better move out there if they're going to move him. But I'd be like, I don't have to move this guy,
right?
And we gave him a little bit of an extension for a reason. But if there's a trade to be had, I don't know if it happens before the draft or it happens at the trade deadline when you start to look down the road. And let's see how the season goes. You can play the game. Let's see how the season goes before you do it. Or do you think you get the most value now?